Hand over your guns now or we'll call real cops. That's what they barked at me in my own garage, puffing their chests like they just stepped off some low-budget TV set. I've been through war zones. I've buried brothers overseas. And now I'm supposed to tremble because a few neighborhood punks in knockoff uniforms say so. I couldn't help but laugh. Halloween came early and these kids thought paper badges and toy radios made them lawmen. The moment I saw these clowns step onto my property, something felt off. Their uniforms looked official at first glance, but years of military training taught me to spot details. The fabric was too thin. The emblems caught sunlight wrong, and the way they walked, pure civilian swagger trying to play soldier. "Sir, we're here regarding neighborhood safety regulations," the tallest one announced, flashing his insignia like he was auditioning for a cop show. "I'm Troy Bennett with HOA Security Enforcement." His voice carried that forced authority you hear from all security guards trying to sound important. The other two flanked him perfectly, clipboards ready, radios crackling with what sounded like police chatter, but felt completely wrong to my trained ears. My garage door was wide open. Morning sun streaming across my workbench where everything was organized with military precision. These guys were eyeing my guns safe like sharks circling wounded prey. The whole scene felt like amateur hour trying to pass for professional law enforcement. HOA Security Enforcement. I kept my voice level and controlled. Never heard of that department before. The middle guy, shorter with nervous energy radiating from every movement, started reading from official-looking papers. Something about Firearms Investigation Authority under subdivision regulations. The third one, built like a linebacker but moving like a civilian, spoke into his comm device using codes that sounded almost right, but not quite. But then recognition hit me like heat on asphalt. That tall one. Where had I seen that face? Somewhere recent and completely civilian. The commercial, Bennett's Bargain Beds. That cheesy jingle about where dreams come true for the whole family. This phony officer was selling mattresses on television just last month, doing that ridiculous dance with the oversized pillow. "Hold up," I said, stepping closer to get a better look at his face. "Aren't you the guy from that furniture commercial? Bennett's Bargain Beds, where dreams come true." I watched his face transform as recognition dawned on him. The color drained from his skin faster than water through a storm drain. His confident posture crumbled like a house of cards in a hurricane. His partners exchanged panicked glances like deer caught in headlights. 1 minute he was officer authority with his chest puffed out. The next he was Troy Bennett, the mattress salesman caught playing dress up. "I have no idea what you're talking about," Troy stammered, but his voice lost all that practiced authority he'd been projecting. The nervous guy kept shuffling his forged papers, trying desperately to maintain the charade. The linebacker was still talking into his handset, but now it sounded desperate rather than official. "Boys, that uniform material is thinner than a beer can," I said, examining their gear more closely. "Did you get these insignias from a cereal box promotion?" The metal felt hollow, cheap, trembling like paper foil. Real shields carry weight, substance, and authority. These were stage props pretending to pass for the real thing. That's when I activated my phone's camera and started recording everything for evidence. My army training kicked in completely and automatically. In Afghanistan, counterfeit authority could get you killed in a heartbeat. These amateurs were using the same intimidation playbook, just with different outfits and civilian targets. "Step away from my property immediately," I commanded, positioning myself between them and my belongings with military precision. "You have zero legitimacy here or anywhere else." My U.S. Army command shirt wasn't just clothing anymore. It was a statement of real service versus their theatrical performance. The difference between authentic jurisdiction and costume fraud was becoming crystal clear. Troy tried one last desperate play to salvage his collapsing operation. "Backup units are en route to this location." "You're obstructing official duties," he declared, but his voice cracked like a teenager. Trying to sound tough. His phony bravado was completely shattered now. Call your backup then, I said calmly, continuing to record everything. I'm documenting this whole theater production for posterity. Let's see how your supervisor feels about furniture salesman playing police officer. From the driveway, I heard Diane's voice cutting through the tension like a knife through butter. If you won't cooperate with our security team, I'm calling the real police to report an armed threat to our neighborhood, she announced dramatically. She stood there with her arms crossed, righteous indignation radiating from every pore. Perfect, I replied, never breaking eye contact with Troy, the mattress salesman. Make that call. When real officers get here, we'll see who the actual criminals are. Within minutes of Diane's threat, my driveway transformed into some kind of twisted neighborhood stage production. Neighbors appeared from every direction, many clutching cell phones, all looking concerned. Some carried identical signs reading, "Safety First," in the same handwriting. Professional staging. Amateur execution. Diane positioned herself at the center of this manufactured crisis. Phone pressed to her ear. 911, I need immediate assistance. We have an armed veteran threatening residents' well-being. Her voice carried the dramatic tremor people use when they want to sound terrified but aren't really scared. Ma'am, I haven't threatened anyone, I called out, making sure my voice carried to the gathering crowd. Several neighbors looked uncertain, glancing between Diane and me. The police cruiser pulled into my driveway with that distinctive weight only genuine law enforcement carries. Officer Morrison stepped out and I immediately recognized something familiar in his bearing. The way he surveyed the scene, the controlled movement, the assessment posture. This man had military training. Troy and his disguise crew immediately approached the officer like they were fellow law enforcement. Officer, we've secured the scene, Troy announced with renewed false confidence. Suspect has been uncooperative with our investigation. The audacity was breathtaking. These amateurs thought they could fool an actual cop. Officer Morrison's eyes swept the crowd, then focused on the counterfeit emblems and uniforms. Something wasn't right, and his trained instincts were picking up on it immediately. Hold on, he said, raising his hand to stop Troy's approach. Let me see some identification. Morrison's eyes narrowed at my Army Command shirt. For a tense moment, his hand hovered near his holster, suspicion cutting sharp. Then recognition softened his voice. Sergeant Major. That single question carried years of shared understanding between veterans who had served their country. That's right, officer, I replied. And these gentlemen aren't who they're pretending to be. Troy tried to maintain his charade with growing desperation. Officer Morrison, we're conducting official HOA security enforcement. He held out his forged insignia with what remained of his confidence. Officer Morrison pressed his shoulder mic, requesting immediate escalation. Sharp responses crackled back from dispatch, confirming federal contact en route. This is how authentic command functions, he announced, turning the moment into a lesson. Authentication, chain of command, accountability. Not stage chatter, not theatrical posturing. Let me make this simple, Morrison said to Troy's team with increasing authority. Show me your department contact information, supervisor names, and legal authorization for this presence. The silence was deafening. They had stage props, not legitimate credentials. Private security cannot impersonate law enforcement, Morrison explained to the crowd. These insignias, uniforms, and radio equipment are designed to deceive civilians into believing they're police officers. That's a federal crime. Morrison's comms crackled with genuine police communications. Dispatch, I need a detective and federal contact for possible civil rights violations. The pretenders exchanged panicked glances. Their charade was about to become a criminal investigation with serious consequences. Detective Walsh arrived with a mobile command unit that meant serious federal business was about to unfold. This wasn't a neighborhood dispute anymore. Federal agencies were taking active interest. Mr. Hayes, Detective Walsh introduced herself with professional efficiency. We need to understand exactly what happened here today and in the weeks leading up to this confrontation. Within hours of intensive review, the findings uncovered shocking details about the plot against me that went far beyond simple neighborhood harassment. Diane's computer showed months of late-night searches, endless tabs on eliminating firearms from residential areas, and researching police-style security companies. The planning wasn't spontaneous fear or reasonable safety concerns. Mr. Hayes, she researched you extensively before you even moved here, Detective Walsh explained, showing me the computer records. Google searches include, how to remove old soldiers from neighborhoods and removing military veterans from communities. The deliberate focus was systematic, precise, and deeply disturbing. Financial logs revealed the monetary motivation behind the rights abuse. Bank statements showed Troy had paid Diane $3,000 upfront with additional monthly payments planned for successful firearm elimination project completion. This wasn't neighborhood protection. It was a paid scheme to undermine liberties for profit. Federal databases revealed Troy's company had targeted 47 veterans across 6 states using identical methods and criminal techniques. Research military backgrounds, hire corrupt HOA officials, manufacture crises, then profit from security contracts and intimidation services. The scope was national, the targeting deliberate, and the methods refined through extensive criminal experience. Detective Walsh, I said, looking at the expanding files. This stopped being about my property when I learned they're attacking veterans nationwide for profit. Federal coordination was rapidly expanding the inquiry beyond local fraud into organized civil rights crimes with national implications. Multiple states were reporting similar operations, all involving corrupt HOA officials accepting payments to enable sham enforcement harassment of military veterans. Troy's sentencing was announced with brutal clarity. Judge Harrison delivered 25 years in federal prison for organized conspiracy to deprive civil rights with additional charges for being a wanted fugitive. All company assets were seized for victim compensation and he received a lifetime ban from any security industry involvement. Diane's cooperation had helped agents arrest 5 other HOA officials across 3 states and shut down 2 similar companies operating identical harassment schemes. The plea agreement terms were substantial, 8 to 10 years prison, full restitution including all my legal fees, permanent prohibition from any HOA leadership role, and participation in civic education programs. New legislation moved through Congress based on files from our case. The Veterans Protection Act established monitoring of HOA compliance, created rapid response systems for veteran harassment, and mandated annual civic education for all private authority officials. 18 months after 3 imposters tried to seize my guns, my ranch had transformed into the Hayes Liberty Learning Center. Veterans, HOA officials, law students, and civic scholars gathered regularly to learn about safeguarding individual freedoms while maintaining neighborhood safety. My garage, where this whole confrontation began, now displayed the original counterfeit badges as reminders of what happens when people impersonate legitimate authority. Community healing had exceeded every expectation. Former neighbors who'd initially supported Diane's staged crisis now volunteered at education events. Children who had been scared by the theatrical emergency were learning about personal freedoms and civic duty. Mrs. Henderson, now 86, served as the center's volunteer coordinator. Grant defended more than his own guns that day, she told visitors regularly. He defended the Constitution my son died protecting. Court precedent from our case was being cited in Supreme Court rulings that strengthened freedoms nationwide. Private communities could no longer override individual liberties through staged crises or corrupt enforcers. Oversight systems established through our case were working effectively. Automatic investigation triggers for veteran harassment, rapid response networks for civil rights breaches, and permanent monitoring of private authority created safeguards unimaginable before our clash. Each evening I passed the steel gate where false authority collapsed, breathing in the scent of cut grass and permanence. My hand always touched the bronze plaque by my door, Hayes Liberty Learning Center, dedicated to defending every American's right to live free. Those words reminded me that real victory wasn't about a rifle or a garage. It was about proving freedom stands taller every single day. Tell me in the comments what you felt during this story, what you change, and if you think I earned a thumbs up. If you liked this one and want to support the channel, there's that little thanks button down below. Stay sharp, stay free, and I'll catch you out there.